The truth is the truth, baby. How about that for a title?
Truth is the truth.
Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast. We talk about entrepreneurship.
I normally do a countdown.
Did you hit record?
Yeah.
No countdowns, baby. Right into it today. It's episode 100 something.
Sorry, I cut off what we talk about. What do we talk about?
Oh, entrepreneurship, self-development, challenging norms. That's what we do. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to stick to it. That's our story.
Hey, this whole podcast has evolved into a diary. I don't know if you noticed. It depends if we release the last 10 episodes. But this one's another diary entry. Every day is amazing. Every day we learn something. How stupid we are. How smart other people are. We're evolving.
There's so many things. We just got off an amazing call with what should be a mentor.
It
is, sure.
He offered.
He offered. And what else he offered, and we'll tease this to the end, but he's like, you guys should be pulling together kind of an advisory board of
You're really going to spoil the ending?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Of certain people. Okay, I won't spoil it.
It's okay.
Don't spoil it.
We're gonna take all the lessons that we learned from this call, which are a lot. There are a lot of juicy lessons, and then we're gonna distill them, give them to you. So first, here's the thing: we get on the call, and I'm immediately worried because I realized my workout. I pushed everything back. I just got on like 30 seconds before time. I'm like, I have no idea what I want to talk about. What are we talking about? We don't have an agenda.
I only had notes from a month ago.
Right.
When we made them.
So we got on and we're asking this person, Shane, we're asking him like tax structure questions, like how do we set up the businesses and have holding companies and different companies because we're trying to expand. And he's offering his advice, but he's like, honestly, like you just got to talk to Nancy. She knows her shit. She runs the financials for everything that I do. Let's talk about what you guys want to know. Like I'm here. I've started multiple businesses, all successful, all millions of dollars. I just raised $25 million for my crypto startup, which I'm now realizing what it is, and it sounds amazing. He's like, yo, guys, I'm here. Like, we got half an hour, whatever the time is.
Helpful?
Yeah, how can I be helpful? And I was like, oh, interesting. Interesting. I like the direction you took this because I had no idea where to go with it. So the first thing, I didn't know what to ask at the time. I was not prepared. I was like, oh, you just raised $25 million. How'd you do it? And this was, I liked Shane's answer here and we're going to get into where our approach with Smart Nonsense was completely wrong. But first we'll just touch on this. He's like, okay, you're raising this much money. And this isn't news to anybody, but start with a big problem. Like, what is a problem everyone is experiencing? Everyone knows it. And then just give them the simple solution. That's all it is. That's what he did. And it's just the crypto space is already hot. And he had this problem everyone has where you can't communicate in between wallets. And he's like, oh, we're just going to let people talk between wallets. So you can talk to who you're sending money to or whoever has the NFT or whatever it is. You can now talk to them. It's like, oh, that's brilliant. And he's like, okay, yeah, it's honestly that easy. He has a big track record. So it was easy for him to raise that much money. But that's what got our foot in the door with questioning. Also, what I realized is fucking questions, dude. Like the amount, I was thinking of the alternate universes where that conversation went. And the first time we talked to Shane, it was kind of the same feeling where we had no idea what we were getting into. We thought it was like, hey, do you want to work with us? And it turned into, oh no, here's how to structure your companies. I've done this all before. You got to hire an operator. That's a female.
Get out of there.
That's awesome. Just run it. He's really just giving us great advice from day one that we didn't expect.
It doesn't come until, I got a lot of gas. It doesn't come until we're out of time. And then we're like, oh, okay, we can hang around for a minute. And then all the breakthroughs happen.
Right. It's kind of like after a podcast with a guest, you're like, all right, mic's off. And then all the best nuggets come out. But here, luckily, we got into it pretty early. And I'm like, God, if I just had if we had better questions, I'm just curious. Like at the very end, we got into that little nugget of mentors. And I'm like, oh.
No, you can't even plan that.
I know.
Because there were a couple questions you asked me. He was like, I don't know.
But I'm just thinking the first 10 minutes or whatever was just wasted. Like we didn't need that. So I'm like, oh, what if we use that 10 minutes for something else? What could have come out of that conversation?
I think you can do that, but I think that's futile because what that initial 10 minutes does, whether you realize it or not, is for Shane, it says, oh, these guys are just like me.
Mm.
They have the exact same problems I had 15 years ago. They have an agency that they need to get out of, or they need an it puts merit to the rest of the conversation. So I don't think you can just cut to the chase.
What I loved, I remember reading that the advantage of being in college is you can pretty much reach out to anyone, especially alumni, and they're always willing to help. That's kind of the same feeling that we're experiencing. They're like, oh, they're early entrepreneurs. Everyone that's like 10 years down the line, whether it's Sam Parr, Shane Mack, Sean Puri, like whoever it is that we're talking to, they want to help out.
Yeah.
Like it's fun for them. They're like, no, I love being in shoes. This is the best moment. And I'd love to just help and potentially guide you a little bit.
And we're so like, we can do it ourselves. We can do it ourselves. We've done it ourselves this much. Everyone tells us we can't do it. Look what we've done.
Right. But this brings me back to, okay, I had the tweet yesterday that we talked about. I'm like, I'm wrong so often. Fuck, I'm feeling more like this imposter syndrome. Like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm literally letting the company down, or we are, with like our sole responsibility is to make sure the 30 plus team members that we have that are the best in the world are being used to their full potential. And I feel like we've been squandering the fuck out of that.
Maybe. I don't get imposter syndrome. I understand.
It's not imposter syndrome. I just use that word because it's on the top of my head.
Yeah.
It's more so like,
I just see it as like more data. It's just blind spots we had before where someone brings them to the forefront and you're like, oh, it's only a problem if you don't act on it.
Right.
It's only a problem if you don't act on it.
And it's luckily the one thing we're good at is moving fast that we talked about yesterday. Like we'll move in the wrong direction super fast, but that just means we reach like the article that I never posted about finding your purpose, where you like go and you get a signal, hot or cold. You're like, oh, change direction, hot or cold, change direction, hotter, warmer, burning hot. Like we're just good to move fast so we can get through that maze.
Let me throw in another one. I sent last night. We're like, wait, there's probably 5 people we should apologize to. 5
at least
clients, at least,
Karma.
and show them like we've changed and this is how we operate now. So one of those people, don't even need to mention it, but I wrote an apology to them this morning. You wrote an apology to them this morning. Both are good in their different rights. Both have 2 completely different tones. I sent them to Jack. He preferred the tone from mine, some of the context from yours. He says the tone of the second puts you in the tech bro archetype more than you probably want to be. And so now I'm just like,
that's what I told you though.
Yeah. But I'm like, what's real anymore?
No, I knew that going in. See, my problem is my default is tech bro. So I got to like undefault that.
And my default is the opposite of that. And I've tried to be more, less agreeable, more decisive.
So what I don't want your lesson to be out of this is concise writing is bad.
Right.
Or good writing is bad.
Right.
Because you have the stream of conscious, which maybe it's more empathetic, but it also means that people don't want to read it as much.
And it's more confusing.
Right. So whatever. Basically,
I don't have a solution there. Just
what
interesting.
What I realized, this Dunning-Kruger effect. You remember what that is?
You don't know how stupid you are.
Yeah.
You're so stupid. You don't know how stupid you are.
That was and what I felt like the last 2 months is.
Yeah.
We got all this amazing feedback about how awesome our videos are, which we really don't have a role in. That's just the animators. Our only role is like make the rule book. And the one thing we had to do, we did terribly. So it's like at the end of the day,
I don't know about that. Putting the right people, I see it.
I just
putting the
thought
right people
we
in
were
the room.
fucking the shit, and it's very clear by how we wrote the rule book. And I'm like, no, we were just at that early stage of you learn a little bit and you think you're awesome, and then quickly realize you have no idea what you're doing, and that's when you get the mentors, and they're like, okay,
yeah, swallow your pride, be more humble.
Hey, one thing, I kind of mentioned this before, but feeling like we're letting the team down in not properly closing these deals or allocating the team in the right way. Like Clipped could be this certain thing and it's not yet. It reminded me of Casey Neistat, where he's like his social media startup. I forget what it was. Beam. It didn't take off. I mean, he sold it and basically didn't make much, but like made enough. But he just felt like he let his whole team down. That's the feeling that I've had. What
was the reason again?
Well, they believed in the mission. They're like, oh, we're going to change it. I mean, this is with every startup. Like you join, you take half the pay that you could take at Google to come and do something you believe in. And they believed in Casey and what they were trying to do with video. and he couldn't make it work. So now he feels like he's let down everyone at the company.
Yeah, and then it kind of dissolved. Huh.
Right. Luckily, we're not at that stage. It's good that we're realizing this now. I mean, we moved so fast. Like, we've only really had the rule book for like 2 months. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world. But it is that feeling of now I'm embracing the company as its own animal. We're serving the company, not we're the owners of the company. Everyone's serving us.
Right.
Which is within the last 2 days, I've started to feel this way. Which is, I guess, good for everyone else. And I hope everyone working within the company feels that way too, where they're not just the self-interested. How do I make the most money? How do I screw the company in any way? It's no, am I giving everything I can to the company to make it better? And then that's in turn going to make me better as well.
And that they're not just serving you and I.
Right. That's what I want to get across is like, look, we failed, and we got to talk about this a lot with the team. Like Dharmesh just posted a video today about insecurity. Everyone feels insecure because they don't see all the other bad decisions that people have made in the past, like the anti-portfolio. It talked about like all the investments we didn't make. You don't often see that. You just hear, oh, we invested in Uber, we invested in Airbnb, Facebook. Yeah, but what about all the other ones you didn't? Like, where's Slack in your portfolio? You passed on that. So it's good for the team to see how wrong we are. And they're like, oh, if they're wrong all the time, kind of what you said before, like I'm right 95% of the time, it's probably 45% of the time. And people have to realize that, because if they think, oh, it's a fucking coin flip if Dylan's right or not, then they feel more empowered, I think, to speak up, because they don't necessarily like blindly have this halo effect around me or you. Like, oh, they know the path. No, give them the context, and then they can push back on everything.
Brilliant. You want to know another brilliance?
Yeah.
Because then we pivoted to clipped at some point. And if you have more things there, we can circle up. But he starts talking about in the agency business, and this is happening to us right now. It's like when you have this product that's awesome, and you're charging a lot of money for said product, your clients are going to come in and want more and more and more stuff. And that's just going to like dilute and diffuse your product to, where our thing is being able to distill a message into 60 seconds and being the 1 minute clipped. Now we're talking about 8-minute YouTube videos, and sometimes we edit full podcasts. He's like, be religious about your product.
Right.
Where you guys should be crazy, nonsense, like bros, is in the religion of your product.
I love that.
He's like, if you're going to be inadvertent, I think that was the word he used. But I don't think that makes sense. So it might not have been the word he used. He's like, be that, what's the word? Like,
shamelessly fucking.
Like strong, be that, I don't know. But put all your conviction behind the 60-second thing and don't stray away from that.
What I realized this morning is we have clipped and it's still up and running. Like, we'll still take orders. But it's charging at $4 per minute.
God, dude. The $950 a minute?
Right. Okay, we're gonna get into it. But first, I was
brilliant.
like, we do this ad, and it's only like $75 for 15 seconds, but it's a fucking banger. I'm like, the return on investment for this person that submitted this clip, it's got to be like, if they're properly promoting it, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands. So
it could be $100, and it makes sense.
I'm like, oh, this is fucking. It's like a piece of art. You see one of those fucking like blank white pieces of art on the wall, and you're like, that took no effort. Why is that selling for $10 million? Well, that's the same thing here. Like, why are we charging by the effort, by the amount of seconds, which roughly means how much time we have to put into it? That makes no sense. It's the value that you're getting out of it. And that's why we're getting all these yawns, because the yawns are the ones with like, oh, my message isn't worth that much, so I'll just throw it at it. But there are people, like Shane said, he talked to Devin Finzer, who's the CEO of OpenSea. It's like, that conversation, that's worth many times over 1,000. If it's me and him talking, now I am an authority in the space. If I promote that,
we're going to be here
phenomenal.
all day, Pop.
Right.
We're going to be here all day.
So it got to this point where I was trying to figure out, because right now our model is like $4 per second, which he's like, dude, what the fuck are you guys doing?
He's like, $4 sounds expensive, and a second doesn't sound like much.
Yeah.
It was $950 per minute. He's like, $950 sounds like a lot of money, and a minute doesn't sound like that much. You guys are doing yourself a disservice. Like, just reframe it.
Yeah, he was like, reframe it not as like time. And I'm like, no, we're not charging per minute of our time. We're charging per minute of code. He's like, no, fucking get out of that space. You're selling the vision. You're in the shitty sales mentality. You got to get to the Elon Musk level of, no, we're going to get to Mars. I don't care what it costs, but we have to get there for civilization. You have these amazing ideas. They're lost. They're tied up in these hour-long, endless videos. We're going to find those nuggets for you, bring them out, mine them for you, and then show them to the world in the most beautiful way possible.
And guess what? The hardest thing we can do is distill them into a 60-second clip.
Right.
That's the hard part.
Right.
That's what we do the best.
The ideal clip is like 5 seconds. And we're just working to distill it down as much as possible.
If the rule book says anything, it should be, our one rule should be, we don't release stuff that's longer than 2.5 minutes.
I like the 1 minute.
Sure.
The 60 seconds is like, it hammers home. There's nothing. If anything, it's just going to be a teaser for whatever the full is. You never need that long of a video. If it's truly amazing, it can be distilled.
So make your messaging. We take your big ideas and distill them into a 1-minute message for all of social media.
Right.
He said it better.
It doesn't sound very good when you just said it. It's more like,
take big ideas and deliver them in the perfect message. That's just kind of what we were spitballing.
Yeah, I mean, the copy's going to be there, but it's essentially
nothing to do with dollars and time.
Right. That's the afterthought. Like, you finally get through the process and you're like, oh, this costs $1,000, but it makes sense. You're not going to question at that point because you've already been sold the vision. So when you buy into the vision and it's a no-brainer for you, you're like, you're right. I do have 50 hours of Zoom calls with all these amazing people, but like, I don't want to go through them. Like, we were talking about this earlier of, we want to do this podcast a lot more often so that we can build Clipped for ourselves. What do we want to do with Clipped? We want to shoot this and just move the fuck on.
Yeah.
And just, hey.
It's been on our to-dos the last 5 days longer. We're like, how do we shoot these more frequently and move the fuck on?
Right.
And have a story worth sharing to the world. That's still what we have to figure out. And Clipped isn't going to be successful until we figure that out.
And that's where now the role of the time cutter is so much more important. It's one of those, probably more important than the animator. If we're saying that distilling your message down and finding that nugget that you want to share is the most important element.
That's so interesting.
That's probably more important than the animators.
That's so interesting.
But what's nice is we could even pay someone in the US to do that because it's so important. And you can do it like time cutting. You can rip through a bunch of them at once. Not saying that we're going to do that, but it does have that much value inherent in it.
And it's that old adage, like, what makes it so difficult? It's like, sorry, my email was so long, I ran out of time to make it shorter or something.
Well, that was Mark Twain. So he didn't have email back then, but he's like, probably, sorry, my letter's so long. Fuck.
Sorry. It would have been shorter if I had more time.
He said it really nicely.
We gotta pull it up.
So yeah, at this point, I guess we can.
And then talk about the mentorship.
Yeah. So we're basically realizing, like, oh, true. We've been able to get by on just retainer, like people that already kind of understand. Oh, that's a good point. On demand.
Wait. I'm gonna get this. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. Think about that for a minute. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter.
Right. And we just put that in the copy on the homepage.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. I'm excited about that. I want to crack the code on the time cutting because I think that is crackable too. Before we thought it wasn't, but it's more crackable than animating. Like, we thought that we could make animations objectively cool. I think it's easier to objectively
be the best distillers.
Right.
We're close.
If they fully understand good story.
Sure. And when we give them a small range, they're really sharp.
Right.
90% of the time.
It's doable. So our big conclusion is like, we want to do this, again, sell the vision. And what's most appealing as a product to Shane and to pretty much everyone is on demand. Everyone does this. Hey, I don't have 15, 20, 25 grand worth of content. I'll just have an amazing conversation every couple weeks. Can I just pay like the little bit extra so I don't have to have this contract retainer?
That's literally our lifestyle.
Right. Right.
I'll pay a premium so that I can have all these things on demand and I can flex, be flexible. I can come and go as I please. And I'll pay a premium for that.
I'm like,
now,
you're right.
Now he's like, I would take the agency because I literally want to do nothing and they have the money to do so.
Right.
But that's a small subset of people.
Right.
Oh, man. So, yeah, he's like...
Well, here's the thing. You kind of have... If you're going to be that demographic, that person, you have to have a lot of content, constant content, and a lot of money. But there are a lot of people with a lot of money, but not constant content.
Right.
Content. And we get a lot of those people asking for, hey, I'm only shooting... Like, I only need 1 clip a week. And we're like, hey, we don't have the product for you yet.
Let me give you this, because I'm just jamming on him. Ben Chestnut goes on the MailChimp founder, goes on the How I Built This podcast. He probably doesn't do a ton of personal speaking engagements. Like, he would never come to us on the agency side, but he goes on all these podcasts. He's like, oh, I love that zinger I had right there.
Right.
Let me feed that to the clip guys.
Right.
I've got $12 billion. But he doesn't have a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
But he would go to Clipped and pay
he's like, I got a Twitter with a lot of people. That'd be dope. I'll drop $1,000 on that.
Yeah, fuck. So it's like retainer is nice, and I think I said it at the end of the call. It's like retainer is good for us. It's good certainty for us, but on demand is better for the customer. And a happy customer is in the long run better for us. So I think you push the on demand model hard.
I mean, on demand might even be better for us if the price point is higher. It's like, oh, we got it to a hands-off level. Who knows?
Who knows?
So...
And then he raps on the call. And he's like... You ask him a question. He's like, you know what? I don't know right now on that. But
I was like,
yeah,
where do you see us going wrong?
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. And he thinks for a minute. He's like... But if it were me, and it was me a while ago, here's exactly what I would do. I, at the time, when I was your guys' age, like, I wanted to, like, stick it to him. I didn't need mentors. I didn't need an advisory board. And then he's like, I softened over time and realized, like, that's a great group of people. That could be a great group of people to hold you accountable and hone your focus and be this kind of, like you say, when you're sitting in the kitchen looking one way and then your advisory board is just, like, pivot your head a little bit and then you see the beautiful view. So he's like, what I would do is start assembling a little advisory board of mentors, act like they're shareholders, and send them a bi-weekly or monthly letter on what you're working on, where your focus is, where you want to be held accountable, and toss out any questions you have for them. He's like, I'll be that person. And he's like, as you're working with Naval, you should politely ask if he'd be on that. And I'm like, fuck. We have the phone numbers. We are in we communicate with all of our idols all day long. It would be the simplest ask. Just be like, you don't even have to read. Can we just send you this thing every 2 weeks?
I was thinking, well, one, I'm like, remember when you had Dunbar and you guys wanted to pitch VCs to get funding? And I was like, okay, why don't you just like seed the pitch and just send them something ahead of time? Like, hey, FYI, we're going to be building this. It's kind of a similar idea where we don't need their money now. We don't need it at all. But we're starting to work with them. We already have their contacts. Like, we have enough social credit to at least get their personal emails. And now we're like, hey, we're building this down the road. That's our goal. We're just going to document it along the way. And you can see we're consistent. We work hard as fuck. You know that. And then if we do need money, you're the choice, not the comparison.
And
so
when the day comes, we're like, hey, is anyone in this 30-person list? Has anyone done the agency to product thing or know a super dope software developer?
And they're invested in the journey.
Right. They're like, I know exactly why you need that person. I know who the exact fit is. This is all Sean Puri wants. He just wants to be on that list.
Right.
reading. He wanted to take us under
And
his wing.
I think it's fun where it's something, and we like being transparent in general. I think people would like, hey, here's the truth of the financials. Here's what we adjusted this week to make it better going forward. It's just fun little nuggets. Like, people like the ride. And I was even thinking we could have the little 2-minute video update. Like, it goes along with
we have so much work to do.
I know it is a fuckload, but that's why we have to get out of the nitty gritty of the operating day to day. And then once we're free, once whoever is running that within our company, then we can focus on this really important stuff that I think is going to be fucking game changing for us.
That's a whole nother beast, though. Shane was even telling us like who should be the operator of the agency, who would be a kick-ass operator. And I was like, oh, in a lot of respects, that's me. That, you know, he was just talking about that person who's intrinsically motivated, self-starter, scrappy, doesn't care what other people think.
Yeah, we're like, Jack Norris at me.
I'm like, oh, fuck.
Here's the thing. We don't, if you have, say, the Tony type that's running the company, or whoever is running the company internally, and you don't have to do the client-facing stuff, like, I have fun on this. I have fun, like, he basically said it. He's like, dude, you're already at the pinnacle with Naval. Like, you got it. And now it's just a matter of how do we, and this is the fun part. Like, we're excited about the phone calls today because we're talking again to Mike Maples, and then back to HubSpot after that. So we're having these conversations that we're excited about. Like, I love that. I love what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stop that.
What was really exciting is yesterday, we took all this feedback, tweaked the rule book, fixed it, sent a bunch of apologies. You sent it to the folks at HubSpot, and they're like, this looks great, hoping we can get back on track. It's like,
right.
In 24 hours.
I know.
So good. So what I was thinking, I was like, do I sit like just above Tony? Do we keep co-doing this thing? It's like, should you just go be the visionary? Because you're the systems guy? I have so many questions.
Well, first step is just remove ourselves. And then I think we're both going to be working on the clip train of, first, how do we build clipped for smart nonsense? And then that's inevitably going to be for everyone else, because we're scratching our own itch, and then everyone else has the same fucking mosquito bites. So we're like, hey, here you go. How you like that analogy?
So good. I'm so excited. Overwhelming. It's like, yeah. There are so many things I can think of. We should go. Hey, leave a review. DM us. Do you have anything else?
No.
No nonsense. That was no nonsense. That was a lesson for Gen Z. All right? Make some mistakes. Move fast. Come out of it. Change your mind.
Because I do want to have a bow on this. I think the most important thing is move fast and get feedback. Because people can tell you a million times, like you telling me, oh, we got to shoot the podcast again. Until I internalize it, like the second I really believed it, we've shot 10 podcasts in the last 3 days. Like, it's fucking nuts. So you gotta really experience it for yourself. Have the problems. Like, I don't think we would change the rule book that fast unless it really backfired. So in a sense, we kind of needed that. You needed the fucking punch in the face, but you only get there by moving really fast. Obviously, try and avoid them if you can by like reading a lot, watching smart nonsense.
The problem is a lot of people, they're like, I want to go into the space, but I don't want to get punched in the face. So they start doing damage control before they've done anything, with no feedback, no signal, nothing. It's like you said, like, to get to something that seems really bad, it was objectively, like people didn't want to work with us. You have to do a lot of stuff really fast. And then you can correct.
So what's interesting to me is Shane saw that rule book was abrasive. And if we had asked him to, there just wasn't our conversation wasn't, hey, Shane, we just made this rule book. You're one of the first people to see it. What did you honestly think? Like, right. If you've been in our shoes, do you think this is a bad decision for us?
Because he liked it, because he's that type of person, and we were just looking for confirmation bias.
Right. And honestly, it's like, I'm too scared to ask, because deep down, I'm like, it is pretty abrasive. Is this like, you have that doubt, and that's what makes you scared to bring up the question, because you know there could be truth to it. But the truth is the truth. And it's just like whether you're going to talk about it or not, and be productive and able to change it.
The truth is the truth, baby. How about that for a title? You'd be like, what is this episode about? The truth is the truth. And I've never seen it like before or ever heard it. You really don't know what you don't know. And you've got other people will tell you. So talk to them.
All right.
The
See you
truth
tomorrow.
is the truth.
The truth is the truth.
Later.
Peace.